Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Neon Reactor channel, where we learn by doing. I'm Joe, and I'm here to help you level up your 3D skills using Blender 3D. Whether you're just starting out or you've been pushing polygons for a while, this channel is here to help you learn as you build cool stuff. Today we're going to model something simple but useful, a battery. It sounds basic, but this is an exercise that will help you sharpen your eye for form, proportion, and scale. And it will help you to make a complete model in a short amount of time, minus the texturing and things like decals for your object. We'll do that in a video later down the line. So let's open up Blender and dive in. So the first thing I'm going to do here is hide my logo, the Neon Reactor logo. And we're going to just middle mouse button rotate so we can get a nice view here. Okay, proportional view. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a reference image. We need a reference image so we know what we're modeling. So this is something, there's two ways to go about doing this. You could put reference images, so you could actually drag reference images into the modeling space, the 3D modeling space, and use them to model directly, from to get an actual shape. But what we're going to do here is just go by sight, which is a little bit different, and maybe not as accurate, but I think it's good to learn this. I'm sort of an artist by trade, so I like, in art, a lot of times sometimes you trace stuff, a lot of times you're just looking at it and have to sort of transpose what you're seeing into a work of art. So we're going to do this with the 3D modeling. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this. I'm going to drag this corner down here. So just click on the corner, drag down, and it'll get you another window here. So now you've created a new window. And we're going to go here to image editor, so general image editor, or you can hit Shift F10, and we all know Blender's all about the hotkeys. So I'm gonna hit Shift F10, and that'll bring it up automatically. And if you do that enough, you'll learn the hotkeys and make you much faster, right? So we're gonna open up our image. So I'm gonna go to the folder that has the image and battery ref image, and we're gonna open that up, and we got our little battery here. And you can scroll in and out to zoom in, or you can use this button here for finer scrolling. And then we have this hand button here for panning around, so if you want to move the image around. And if you want to have a bigger image, you can always drag the corner here and bring this out. It'll create another window, and you can have the image, a bigger image side by side with your modeling window. It just depends on how you want to do it. For now, we're going to just leave the image right here. We can always zoom in if we want to look at the details, which we'll do later on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a mesh. So we're going to do a primitive mesh cylinder. So I'm going to bring that in there, and as you can see, I've actually set this to 5. Usually it comes in like default of like 2. So it's really stubby and short. Now, we're not going to click any buttons here, because if you click the left mouse button, you're done with this window and it's gone. It goes away. So we want to, get in the habit of going here first and tweaking stuff around. And I think it comes in default as 32. So, you have 32 vertices here, and it's very refined. Maybe we'll just go ahead and knock it down to 16 a little bit, and we'll use sub D to smooth it out. Either way would work, but it makes you have to deal with less polygons. So, okay, and the radius we'll just leave at 1. That's the radius of the circle here, of the cylinder, and then the depth we'll set it back again to 5. So we got like a 1 to 5 ratio, maybe 6. That looks good. Okay, so now we're pretty happy with the shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and click left mouse button, and that'll end that. And then we're going to bring this up. So I'm going to hit G to move, and then Z to lock it in. And we're going to lock in that and move the battery up from the floor here. So now we got the surface here. Looking at that, it seems like it'd just be a smidge taller. So what we can do is go into edit mode by hitting tab. And as you can see here, we have these are really important. This is edit mode right here. It tells you what different modes there are. There's object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode, vertex, weight, and texture. Those are all different modes to do different things in Blender. Okay, so we're going to stay in edit mode. And then over here we have three different selection modes. We have vertex selection mode, edge selection mode, and face selection mode. If you do vertex mode, it'll highlight select the vertices individually, and then the edges will show just the edges, and you could select them like this. And you could also hit shift select to select multiple at one time. Or you can do, there's different ways of selecting. There's B, you could box it. So we can hit, if you click outside the object, it deselects everything. You can also hit A, will select everything. But in this case, we're just going to we're going to use our hotkey again. So 1, 2, 3 on a regular keyboard. So 3 is going to be face select mode, and I'm going to select this face right here, and G and Z, and we're going to move it up just ever so slightly because it's pretty tall and thin. Double A's are pretty tall and thin. Okay, so that looks about good there. A tiny bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Control R, and this will make a loop cut there. So I want to make a loop cut right about edge loop. Sorry, I'm going to make an edge loop right about here, and that's going to be for our eventual material. We're going to do a custom materials to give this battery some color and some surface reflection. So we'll do that later on after we're done modeling. So let's go ahead and zoom in here to the face, top face, and we're going to go ahead and X and delete the face. And the reason why, and then we're going to hit 2 for edge select. So 2 for edge select and Alt, and then left mouse button click, and that'll select the edge. So you're going to edge loop selection with the Alt and left mouse button click. Okay, so now you have that. You have the edge loop selected on top here. We're going to go ahead and hit E to extrude, and then S to extrude in. Okay, and one thing I'm going to do now is come over here to our reference image, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit and use the hand to sort of bring it down. Okay, so now we have a sort of a zoomed in view of the battery, so we could see what's going on here. And I'm going to scale it in, so we're going to scale this in some more. Okay, and this has sort of a little bit of a curve. You can see that there. It's curved ever so slightly. So I'm going to hit G and Z, and we're going to ever so slightly bring that up. And that's going to create that little rim that you see there on the outer casing of the battery before it hits the, I think that's the anode. Hit E to extrude, and then Z to move down. And that's going to give us that little edge there on the rim of the casing around the anode. So once we have that finished, we're going to go ahead and extrude again and scale, and we're going to scale in all the way to where that node's going to, that button node's going to be right there to about there. And then we're going to hit G and Z, and we're going to move it up ever so slightly to give it a little bit of an angle, because it sort of rises up just ever so slightly. Okay. And then we're going to hit E to extrude and Z again, and we're on the Z axis. So we're going to extrude on the Z axis there. And there you go. There's that. And then we're going to close this up. There's two different ways to close up this hole. You can either do F, so you could do an F, and that will go ahead and complete the face, or undo, Control Z to undo, and you can go to here to face, the face menu right here, and this doesn't have a hotkey, but you can grid fill it. So I'm going to grid fill it, and what that'll do is create a continuous quad poly surface. So if you want to do something like an edge loop here, you could do that. So it has some benefits to doing that there. That's why I did a grid fill. If you did a face fill, we'll just hit F. You'll get the face filled, but you won't be able to do that. It won't make continuous edge loops if you wanted to add more details or do other things. So that's just something to note. Okay, so now we're going to go to we're going to go to doing the fine sub D modeling. So I'm going to go out of edit mode by hitting the tab key. So we're going to hit the tab key, and let's check this thing out now. So if we look at it now, I'm going to turn on the lights here. And if we go into our render mode, this is what we have so far. Doesn't look too hot. So one thing we're going to do to smooth things out a little bit, and you know, looking at this again, I'm like, and then this button looks like it could be a little more pronounced. So maybe a little bigger. So you can always go back in here. I'm going to go back here to make it quicker. You can hit Alt and, well, I'm going to keep this selected. So I'm going to hit Shift. So it's Shift. Anytime you hit Shift and select, it adds to the selection. So I'm going to hit Shift, Alt, and left mouse button click. Take that back. Okay. Let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and first hit 3 for faces, and then hit the Shift select here. Or I'm just going to hit C. So C, this is a area select here, and you can actually use the mouse cursor, scroll wheel to like make the selection area as big or small as you want, depending on what you're doing. So I'm going to reselect that there, and then we have faces selected. I'm going to hit Alt and left mouse button. Oops, forgot to hit the Shift. So Shift, Alt, left mouse button. And that gets you this all selected here. And then I'm going to increase it a little bit there. Like that. Okay. When something's selected and I hit Shift, I just hit Shift, Alt, and select again. So if it's already selected and you do it, it's going to deselect that. So I deselected that area because I'm going to go ahead and raise this ever so slightly. So G, Z, and just raise it just a little bit. Okay. And you can just sort of play around with that. And so I'm going to hit Tab into object mode again. And we're going to go to render. And as you can see, that looks about pretty close. Maybe I could raise this up just a little bit too. So maybe I'll go ahead and raise it up a little more. There you go. All right. So there's our battery. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to right click and shade smooth. And what that does is give you an automatic shade smooth without any use of subdivision surfaces, which is a modifier we'll talk about in a minute. And see how far we can get with this, because I did do like a low poly model. So okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back into the solid view mode here, and we can see this here, and there's like a lot of artifacting there, and you're like, well, that's not good, right? So one thing we can do for that is we're probably going to have to use subdivision surfaces, because I feel like we don't have enough polys here, and so you get these lines going on here, this sort of imperfect artifacts. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the modifier tab here, and I'm going to click on modifier. And we're going to hit, we're going to look for subdivision surfaces. This already comes up, but you can also type in subdivision surface, and then you'll get this. So if you've never done it before, it may not be there, so you can just type it into the search window right there. And there you go. We got our subdivision surfaces. So I'm going to bump this up, the level viewport, to 2 to give it a little refinement, and we'll leave it at 2. Okay, so we have that there. So now what we need to do is, you can see things have sort of pulled back a little bit. So so if we go into edit mode, you can see here the cage that surrounds the subdivision surface, and you can see it's pulled away quite a bit because it's sort of calculating the smoothing out the edges. So it's sort of making these calculations between all these poly edges. So one thing we could do for this is we want to bring it back. And the way we bring it back, there's a couple ways to do it. You can either add an edge ring. So if I was to do this, I'm going to go edge ring here and bring it up. As you can see, when you do that, you can see that it starts to bring the form back to the battery. So some modifications we need to do. So that's one way of doing it. I'm going to undo that. Another way of doing it, I'm going to do an Alt and left mouse button. First hit 2 to go edge select. I'm going to select the outer edge here. You can hit Shift E. And what that does is it makes an edge crease. So that's one way of adding sharpness to your edges without adding more polys. So that's like a good strategy for that. And then we're going to add one there. And then I think in order to see this, we're going to have to hit this button here, which is on cage. So on cage, you can see all of the edge loops. So I'm going to select this edge loop right here. So Alt left click, and we're going to make a crease on that one too. All the way to 1. If you want to see this, you can also hit N for properties here, and it's right here. It's called mean crease. So if you want to come in here and edit this to look at the value, you can always do this. And if you want to just max it all the way to 1, you can do that. And that creates a super sharp edge crease. And we'll probably do the same thing here to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and select Alt left mouse button, select this edge loop right here. And I'm going to create a crease. So Shift E. Okay. There you go. And you could even select them all at the same time and do them if you're like really, fancy. And so you look right there and you can see we have a nice sharp crease. So if I took this out here now, you can see we have this nice sharp crease right there, which is sort of representing what this is right here in the reference image. There. Okay, so what we need to do now is we got to create that edge crease right here on the battery post. How are we going to do that? So we're going to go back here to the on cage again in the subdivision surface modifier, and we're going to Alt and left mouse button click this edge and hit Shift E and drag out. Okay, or you could just go over here and hit 1. That'll give you that ultra sharp edge. And then we can do the same up here. Yeah, the only thing is because I did the grid fill, it doesn't go all the way through. There is a trick here. So you can hit Control and do like that. Well, that might not work either. So one way you can tackle this would be to go here to side view. So I hit 1 on my numpad here, and we'll hit Z wireframe, and we could just B box. So B and then drag select. So this is a box selection mode here, and that'll select all the stuff on top. And then we're going to come back. I'm going to hit Z and come back out to solid again. We'll scroll out here and then zoom back in. Okay, I hit the period on the numpad, and that zooms into your selection, or it zooms into your object if you're in object mode. So that's something important to remember. Okay, so now what we can do is, well, actually I only want to do the selection. So I'm going to hit the edge here and deselect these edges. So Shift, and I'm just going to deselect these edges here like that. Okay, so now we just have the outline. I probably could have gone in there and just, selected it with the Alt and left mouse button click on all 4 of these, and that probably would have done the same thing, because it terminates at this edge right here every time. So you'd have to do 4 selections like that. But we got what we wanted. So now we're going to go ahead and Shift E, and I'm going to sharpen that up. Maybe a little bit less. Okay. There you go. All right. And, that's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And like I said, you can always come back in here and select this. So I'm using Alt and left mouse button click. Well, this is a Shift. So you're going to need to do Shift, Alt, left mouse button click. and that'll select it. So you can do it like that too. And you can play around with this crease and try, try different things to see what works for you. So this button right here, this is really cool, especially when you do like screenshots of your modeling while you're doing it. It turns off all the extraneous details. But in this case, I'm just using it to look at it. So you could turn that off just to see how that crease is looking. And, in fact, what you could do now is just sort of, if you want to sharpen it up, go all the way to 1. Maybe let's go all the way to 1. That'll be good. And then I'll turn this back on, show overlays, and that'll turn everything back on, all the lines and everything. So, okay. So now I'm going to hide the properties window. Okay. And it looks pretty good. I like that. It's got the sharp crease there. The button anode looks pretty decent. And, oh, look at that. One thing we missed was the bottom part here. So I can go here. And I'm going to left mouse button click the bottom. And we're just going to go and use the same strategy we used before. We could produce we can hit Control R and produce a loop cut and then pull that down to sharpen it. But I'm going to go ahead and stay consistent and do Shift E and drag it out. And that will sharpen up the bottom too. Okay, there we go. So now we got an edge crease on the bottom to sharpen that out. Okay. Now, the only thing though is that we have these artifacts right here. So maybe I will need to do an edge loop. So let me try that. Alright. Alright. So sometimes things don't always work out. And so, producing more polys usually can help with reducing artifacts in certain areas. So that was a strategy, was to add an edge loop, and that fixed that problem, the creasing problem there on the bottom. So sometimes you'll need to do these things in order to, fix things you don't realize at the moment. Once you go to look at them, then you're like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, that'll work. So there we go. If we look at the battery now, let's look at this again. And I'm going to go ahead and position this here. That looks pretty good. I think we have a pretty good solid battery base here. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to texture this one. So in order to do that, we'll go into this mode right here. So this is the material preview mode. So we're now going to materialize our battery. One thing you want to do in between where you're modeling, just to keep as you're making progress, is to hit Control S. Whoops, sorry. Whoa. Usually I'm in a recording mode, so probably that wouldn't work. So in this case we'll hit save, but you can also hit Control S on Blender, and that will automatically save. I mean, that's the basic hotkey for pretty much all programs. That Control S saves intermittently. So you want to do that quite often. You can also save a copy, or you can do incremental. So incremental is cool because it'll add like an incremental number onto your model. So say you want to save multiple versions of the file, you can always use save incremental and it'll save it. So I'll save an incremental here because this is a different stage. So we're going into the stage we just finished modeling. We're going to say, okay, save incremental. So now I'll save an incremental version of our file, so that we can, next time we save again, we'll save again, and then incremental, and then that'll be the stage where we finish the materials. And so this is a sort of a way of saving points in your modeling, your modeling flow, which is maybe good if you want to go back to this stage and or something messed up, unforeseen that you want to go back to. It's an easy way to do that. So having these incremental versions is really useful sometimes, especially in complex modeling. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on the texture, the material texturing here. Not really texturing. Actually, material shading. So we're going to add a shader to this. I'm going to hit New button here, and we get the material. Okay, I'm going to rename the material to gold, or I'm going to call it orange gold. Okay, so this is orange gold, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to base color. We're going to go ahead and change this, and it's going to highlight everything because I haven't selected anything yet. So right now it's shading everything because no materials have been applied to this object yet. So it's going to shade the whole thing the color I choose. So I'm trying to go for that sort of like gold color right there, sort of, and then maybe darken it up a little here. So we have this shade slider here. You can go from light to dark. So I'm going to sort of just tweak it until I get what I want there, sort of the battery color. That looks about good enough, I'd say. Okay. So now I'm going to go and tab into edit mode. And we only want this to be applied to certain faces. So I'm going to hit 3 to go to face mode. And then I'm going to Alt, 3, and then Alt. So we're going to Alt, left mouse button click to edge select this. And then I'm going to do the same for the top part, because as you could see right here, let's go ahead and bring this up a little. We're not using that right now. So we can come over here and see right here, this little edge right here is also gold. So I'm going to Shift, Alt, and left. You want to try to select this edge, a short edge right here. Okay, so I selected this edge loop here, and we got this other one here. And you hit, once you're done, you can hit Assign. And now we've assigned this color to this area right here. Okay, so for the other one, the bottom part, which is in this case, we're going to make it dark blue. I'm going to go ahead and edge loop select this. So we're going to still be in faces. Alt left mouse button click down here, and that'll give us this bottom part selected here. As you can see on the battery, it's dark, it's black, but we're going to make it blue. So I'm going to hit plus button right here. That'll add another material, and then I'm going to hit new for new material. If you have one you want to apply, you can always do it here, but I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to call it dark blue. Okay, and we're going to select the color here in the color picker. So I'm going to go here and say, we'll just start off with that. So we can always come back in and change it. And then that should be good enough for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and assign it. Okay. So one thing you'll notice right here is that so we have the subdivision surface is turned on. So it's making calculations. And because of this, the materials are sort of pulling away from the edge. So once again, I am trying to find a solution to this on the fly. So what we're going to do is Alt, left mouse button click to loop select, and then if you hit Shift E to do a edge crease and then drag, it'll bring it up. And so I want to do that to both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and edge select this one too, G to move, and Z, bring it down. And then I'm going to crease this one too. So Shift E. Okay. All right. So there we go. So that's resolved that issue of the material not being aligned with the edge. So we did an edge loop, and that brings the material up to the edge. So, okay. So that's our bottom part there. Okay. So now that we have that done, we can we'll do the third one, and then we'll bring in some other things. So I'm just trying to establish these different materials. So I'm going to tab back into the edit mode here, and we're going to select the top part. So as we can see on the battery right here, you have this silvery material, sort of like a stainless steel. So I'm going to go ahead and for this one you can hit Alt and make sure in face mode, so 3, and then Alt left mouse button click. That'll get that. And then Shift Alt left mouse button clicked for there. Okay, that gets us those selections. And then for the top part, I think I'm going to use a C. Just loop select here. I'm going to use the scroll mouse button to increase the circle. Okay, there we go. Okay, and now we have this whole top part selected here like we do in the image. And I'm going to add a new one. So we're going to hit the plus button again. And new. And I'm going to call this one steel. Okay, so now we have steel. I don't know what material it is, honestly. I didn't look that up before the video. So now we have steel. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, that looks sort of like a whitish gray color. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit here. It doesn't really matter right now because we can go back in and tweak. We'll go back in and tweak everything. So that's good there. And then I'm going to hit assign. Okay. So there we go. So now we have all of our materials assigned to the object. And so now we can tweak things. This is where the fun part comes in because, you know, we're still in material preview mode because that's where we want to be for doing this kind of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to here and I'm going to tab back in again. And actually, you really don't need to tab in again because everything's already selected and assigned. So now we're just going to tweak the look. And I want to make this shiny part shiny. Okay, so we're going to go this anode shiny, so like it is in the image. So to do that, we're going to increase the metallic. I'm going to increase it to 0.72. Okay, maybe 0.75. Give it a little more shininess. And then roughness, I'm gonna leave that at 0.5. Okay. That doesn't look too shiny. Maybe I need to so this stuff actually affects it. So maybe I'll decrease the roughness. So you play around with these things and you can see it. With being in the material mode, it's really cool because you start seeing how playing with these properties in the principal BSDF shader give you a lot of flexibility to customize how you want this thing to look. And that's sort of close. Yeah, and so some of these reflections are coming off what it's reflecting off of. So if I was to put, I will go into that in more detail later, but you know, there you go. So that looks about close enough. Okay. And so now we're going to do the other two. So I'm going to click on the orange gold and we're going to increase the metallic to 0.72 also. Okay. And roughness is going to be about 0.26. Okay, so that gives it like that. It gives it sort of like a shiny metallic, but not quite as shiny as the silver, as you can see here. And then for the third one, we're going to do, for the blue, we're going to apply the same values. So this one also is going to be 0.72 and 0.26. So we stay consistent with our look. Okay, so there we have it right there. I didn't include this little edge loop there. Something you can add in if you want to add in later. But that's one thing I did not include, but I'm trying to just make this a simple video. Also, I have this lighting setup here. It's a 3-point lighting setup. If you're curious about that, please let me know in the comment section, and I will go ahead and create a video for that to detail, a quick video just detailing this 3-point lighting setup. Okay, and then the last thing you can do is you can go to the render mode here, or I have this set up here, and I have the camera actually right here on this 3-point lighting setup. So the camera's right there, and it's already sort of pre-positioned to you know, pointed at this object right here. So if I hit F12, which is a render 12, you'll see only our batteries appears in the render window. So that's basically the battery right there. And you can go tweak the camera and everything, and and tweak the materials to your liking until you get it to where you feel it's representative of the image that you're trying to represent, you're trying to model. So, okay, so that's it for this video. This battery model, clean, simple, and a great way to practice some core techniques. If you followed along, you add another solid object to your modeling portfolio. If this video helped you out, drop a like, and if you want more Blender builds and tips every week, consider subscribing to Neon Reactor. We're just getting started, and we have a ton of stuff planned, so please check in every once in a while. Until next time, keep modeling and stay curious. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day.